So at the surface level, satellites can gather a lot of data, and that's where we get a lot of the information that feeds through to the weather forecasting and lots of models, etc. But the sea is incredibly deep, and after the first meter, we're kind of clueless. So what we have here, this is the sensor unit. It's actually wirelessly charged like you would do with your phone, and then we've got a number of sensors on the ends, and then it comes inside this protective housing. But what fishermen can do is if we put this on the fishing gear goes in the water and goes down through the water, and then it sits on the bottom, and then it comes back up. So we're getting the water column, and we can get several measurements of that in a day just by piggybacking off of what the fishermen are doing. So if you think about, you know, the temperature of the water, the clarity of the water, the pH, levels of oxygen, all that kind of stuff, the oceanographic type of information, that drives productivity, it drives how the fish feed, reproduce, all the rest. And this information then can also be quite useful to the fishermen, because certain species will like or prefer certain conditions. So why waste your time? You know, go somewhere else, or, you know, don't fish even, and save yourself the cost. So what we're trying to do is give fishermen the tools to become scientists in their own right.
All of these parameters that we're measuring using this device kind of form an underwater weather report that's happening beneath the waves. And why this is interesting is that, just like humans, a lot of ocean species have different preferences about where they like to live. Is it a bit warmer? Is it a bit saltier? Is there more nutrients in the water? And this includes bycatch and target catch.
Building a picture of what's going on underwater could also help us understand how climate change is affecting the ocean.
Like last year, I'm sure everybody will remember, it was incredibly warm. It was the warmest year on record. Well, the water temperature around here and around the British Isles, we 20 degrees centigrade water temperature in the sea. That's absolutely crazy numbers. Now, that's on the surface. You go down lower and you get towards the bottom, it's probably closer to 5 or 6. But that's changing how things are behaving. And if you're an animal and you can't tolerate that, you're going to go somewhere else where it's either warmer or colder, and generally they're looking for the colder conditions. So with that climate change, you know, the fishermen are finding new species turning up where they weren't previously. So this type of technology will help us to understand what's driving that, and also to help predict what's going to happen in the future.
And for scientists, this is exciting because it is very expensive and very difficult to measure underwater. And those measurements feed into our weather forecast models, our climate change models, our ability to predict cyclones and storms, or model how nutrients get taken up from one part of the ocean and get transported to another part. We're hoping to contribute to this scientific picture through scaling up ocean measurement, but also doing it in a way that's worthwhile to the skipper who's deploying the device as well.
We've just seen the net come up and all of the content sifted through, and alongside that content we've also got the data that you've been able to capture. So what I'm looking at here,
this is from the SeaSensor. So we start here up at the top. This is our temperature, and actually today it's a very, very cold day, as we all know, and the water temperature at the surface is colder than what it is at the bottom. So, you know, water, the sea or the oceans, they're like a heat sink. So as the surface level changes quicker than actually what it does at the bottom, that tends to stay pretty stable. So yeah, it's cold on the bottom, so I'm glad we didn't fall in. So then we've got pressure, which is the kind of inverse of what we're looking at here, which from the pressure sensor we work out the depth. Then what we have here on these three are the accelerometer data, which is measuring the movement. If it was bouncing along, you'd see lots and lots of spikes. If it was pretty steady, it's kind of smooth, and you know, that helps us understand the impact that the trawl's having on the seabed. You know, is it digging in? Is it crashing around the place, or is it pretty smooth and constant?